Aloha everyone and welcome to another Tinkers Academy video. I'm your host Kay Elmer and this video is another installment in the video series Benefits of Quantum Healing, where I recap science studies commissioned by Leela Quantum Tech. Also, I do recaps on customer testimonials for various aspects related to health. This particular video is part 2 on the study that was done using quantum upgrade for dogs. Now, when I had originally done part 1, I want to point out that I wasn't aware, and it was brought to my attention that they had, they, meaning the International Association for Quantum Technology and Frequency Medicine, which is a nonprofit that houses quantum studies, they sort of missed half of the study. And so when I did the original video, part 1, I had not realized that there was another entire half of the study had not been published onto the website. So the issue with that part has now been rectified. And so if you go to the International Association for Quantum Technology, then this website, and all the links will be in the video description below, now has the complete study. And so what's really amazing about this, and I was really very amazed at the results from the blood microscopy study, which is the blood morphology, blood cell morphology, in analysis, basically. And it was just amazing. And then what I didn't realize was there was even more to the study in which they had done an entirely different analysis. And so what I want to point out in part 2 is that other analysis that was done to show you not only that there's another 7 documents that wasn't originally included in part 1, but also kind of walk you through a little bit of the, the actual methods and materials and results that they had found with those same 30 dogs. Okay, so now at the end of the day, there was 30 dogs. They were studied in groups of 6, 5 separate times. So they repeated it. They repeated the study 5 times in a row just to validate the results and to see if the results would be consistent over time. The study was completely done in a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized study. So this is again, as I mentioned in part 1, this was completely done in a gold standard research level of just, analysis. And so now when I covered the part 1 of the study, I did talk about the dark field microscopy. This is those studies that I went through in that video. And then I also talked about the pet owner research surveys, in which the surveys are, were given to the pet owners for the before and after. So they got a kind of, a good idea from what the owners were observing. And what has now been added is that there was a veterinarian diagnostics that was going on at the same time, which I was not aware of in part 1. And also there was a biosystem or bioenergetic systems analysis. So let me kind of walk you through that so you can understand the other half of the study, because it's just a remarkable, just absolutely amazing results. And so, the first video I did on this was just amazing in terms of what happened with the blood and the turnaround on their health. But then this other one too is just as equally amazing in terms of like what they studied and then the results that they had gotten. So now the overall study, if you go to that site, the repository for these reports is called the Exploring the Effects of Quantum Upgrade on Blood Health and Energy Balance in Pets. And again, this study was conducted from May 5th, 2024 through February 7th, 2025. So it just got published, a couple of months ago. It took 325 days to do this study. And again, it was done with 30 different dogs, randomized, selected, groups of 5. There's 5 groups of 6. And again, the study was completely randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled, done by clinicians at the BESA Institute. So now, when I first did the part 1 is where I covered dark field microscopy and the pet owner research, okay? The test object was the quantum upgrade, and that study, particularly that part of the study, was a before and after study, where the after was 4 weeks after the dogs had been on quantum upgrade. Now, the other piece to it, that's the new part for part 2 here, is that there was a veterinarian diagnostics. And so what I was not aware of, and this was part of the study, was that all 30 dogs were working with, the owners were working with one particular veterinarian who was basically, doing checkups and keeping tabs on the dogs throughout the study. And this was a veterinarian. Her name, she's a holistic veterinarian. She runs her own practice in Austria, and her name is Dr. Barbara Hollogschwandtner. Okay, so I'm sorry, but if anyone could figure out how to pronounce that, you're going to do way better than me. Okay, so this was the doctor, and so so that's a really important piece to this report, that it just wasn't done by a bunch of scientists and between the owners and the scientists, but they had a third party that was working with them, that was was a veterinarian that was doing all the analysis, and just in terms of how it represents in the study results is whenever there's a medical diagnostics that came from the veterinarian, and then the behavioral observations came from the owners. And so I think that's a really incredible specific thing to realize, is that it wasn't just, the owners taking the word from a bunch of different veterinarians, but it was one consistent veterinarian throughout the entire study who was on top of, watching all these dogs throughout what was going on. So that's just I think, a very important aspect of it, was that, this doctor was involved and worked with all 30 dogs. Now, what I want to get into is the actual bioenergetic systems analysis part of the study. So there was really kind of like, two big parts of the study, right? One, they looked at their blood, and that was in part one of this video. And then this is part two, where they looked at their bioenergetic, basically what they call their stress axis. Sorry. So let me kind of get into that. Now, what is bioenergetic systems analysis? So from a methods and materials, the technology used was sort of, it's BESA's own device that they had created off of the technology that was discovered and kind of brought to the mainstream by a Dr. Reinhard Voll. And so I actually did a separate video on BESA and bioenergetics analysis. In the United States, it's called meridian stress analysis. It's also called EAV, electroacupuncture, according to Voll. So there's different names for the same thing, but really it's based on this one doctor that was living in the past century, where he spent his entire career trying to align the existing medical, like standard AMA medical diagnoses processes with traditional Chinese medicine in terms of acupuncture. And what he had discovered and validated scientifically, I mean, this is all science-based evaluations, was that he was able to make a correlation between medical diagnoses and the results when you took a look at an individual's energy flow through their meridians of their body using acupuncture, or specifically electroacupuncture. So he had created an electroacupuncture device that could measure the energy flow through the meridians. And if you're familiar with TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, then you'll know that all of these, our bodies are very complex wiring. It's like a house, where your house has all of this different wiring in it for all the different things that are working inside your house. Same thing with your body. Now you've got all of these different wirings in your body where the energy flows through, and they feed, that energy feeds all these various different organs and parts of your body. And it's just this really complex system of energy, kind of like, an energy, just machine, really. We're kind of just like these biological machines where all this energy flows. And it feeds all of the different things. So in traditional bioenergetic systems analysis, again, known also as meridian stress assessments, also known as electroacupuncture, according to Voll, what happens is the clinician or the doctor will go ahead and take probes and measure 2 points, the two ends of the meridian of any one of these particular, organ areas. And there's 60 different points along the surface of the skin. They look at 30 different things. And now with Dr. Voll's work, where he basically defined when you measure that energy electrically, what does that translate to from a medical diagnosis if you were actually to go through like the AMA process? And so he was able to line up where the results off of his electroacupuncture analysis was going to be equal to, and this is where the work comes in, where he had basically spent his entire life defining, when you see this on the electroacupuncture, it means this in the in like for a regular AMA analysis. And so he's able to, and this machine and this practice and this technology is able to determine the health of all of these 30 various organs and areas of the body, from the lung, the skin, the large intestine, liver, organs, bladder, you name it. You see it on the screen. These list of different areas of the body can be perfectly in terms of accurately diagnosed by using electroacupuncture. And it'd be the same as if you were to go and get all the other testing done. And that's kind of what the work of Reinhard Voll was all about. And so now that's what the device that they use is. They use their own proprietary, basically bioenergetic systems analysis, or their own electroacupuncture device, in order to actually do these analysis. So they had actually kind of created their own version. There's actually numerous different various versions of this technology available on the market now, even a home version you could buy yourself and use at home for, just for like $300. So, it's out there. It's something that's a lot more done, in the Europe as opposed to the United States. But you will find quite a few people if you just look it up and Google it, and you'll find people locally that practice this as a diagnostic tool. So that's what bioenergetic systems analysis is, and that is the technology that is used. Now, for this particular study, in terms of the methods, the specific focus of this analysis, which was looking at the bioenergetic analysis of the various specific areas of each one of these dogs, was focused 100% on what they call the stress axis. Now, that is the central aspect. Is the role of the HPA axis, which is hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, in connection with chronic stress. So they were really focused on looking at these three areas, or these two primary areas of the dog's body, the pituitary gland and the adrenal glands, and they're using this electroacupuncture device to do so in order to evaluate the stress, the chronic stress on those organs of the dog, of dogs, 30 of them. And now the overstimulation, this is what's important about the stress axis, is that the overstimulation of this axis by physical and emotional stressors impairs hormonal regulatory systems, e.g. cortisol, melanin, melatonin, etc., and leads to systemic inflammation, immunodeficiency, and impaired digestion. So that's another thing that, that's kind of like your mainstream science. We know, and science knows, that if there's stress on these two glands, that is going to lead towards these problematic areas, which is inflammation, immunodeficiency, and impaired digestion. So they were really looking at, they were looking at the blood. In one of the studies, they were looking at all the blood cell morphology to take a look at before and after, and then looking at the improvements in the dog after they've been on quantum upgrade for 4 months, now 4 weeks. And then in this particular analysis, they were looking at the HPA axis. They were looking at the stress, resilience of each one of the dogs by using this technology and following this method to take a look at the specific area of the dog to see how well the dog was handling chronic stress before and after it was on quantum upgrade. So the specific tested factors for the stress axis was they measured the dog's cortisol, and this is energetically. Now, I just want to really point that out. This was done through bioenergetic systems analysis. Okay, so they didn't use like chemicals or anything like that, or invasive techniques. They used basically EAV, or bioenergetics, and they looked at the stress axis, the adrenal glands and the pituitary gland, and they measured the levels of cortisol, progesterone, testosterone, estradiol, DHEA, thyroid gland, melatonin, etc. And so these were the specific hormone that are produced and utilized by the body to manage stress in the body. And this was specifically a before and after test. They didn't wait 4 weeks later. They basically took a picture of the dog before, they subjected the dog to quantum upgrade, and then they tested the dog after to see what the effects of, from an energetic standpoint, which is where all this quantum upgrade really kind of lives, is in the energy aspect of our health. And so that's kind of what they did. Okay, so they took a look at their hormones to see how well they were handling stress with and without quantum upgrade. And so now the thing about reading these reports, and I kind of just thankfully they color code it, which makes it so much easier, because all of this stuff, as you can imagine, is very complicated. And so what they did was they color coded the report. And so I just want to really point out a couple of colors that are so important to know, and that's green and the blue. Okay, so when you look at, and I'm going to walk you through one of the 5 studies. Remember, there's 5 separate studies of 6 dogs each. I'm just going to walk you through study number 1, and it's all there on the page. So if you go to, right here, if you go to that, the FQTF website, you can see the detailed study report 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so I've got those here. So I'm going to walk you through report number 1, just like I did in part 1 of the video, so you can kind of get an idea of, like how does that report look like. And of course, it's all transparent, 100%. Everything is published, and it's available for you to review for anyone who just wants to learn more about this, or actually kind of delve deeper into what really was the results of each one of the dogs. The colors now, I do want to point out, is that you're going to see in almost every single case, and this is also true in humans, that you're going to see a lot of blue. And because, they selected 30 random dogs, and so there's going to be a lot of the blue because everyone's got some kind of situation where blue does not mean bad. Okay, so I kind of want, let me start with like the worst to better. So the really bad, like total deregulation, if you see red, if the machine picks up red, or the report shows red, that's total deregulation. That means whatever that organ is damaged, it's got significant damage to it, and that requires repair. Okay, and so red is really, really bad. And if you see yellow, it just means that organ or that area of the body is inflamed, and so it's under pressure. It's actually been affected because now it is inflamed, and it's one step away from being damaged. Now, and then of course, like I was saying, the majority of the animals and people walking around are in a degenerative stage, which means that they're in the blue stage. You'll see a lot of blue in the report from the standpoint that, you're under stress, you haven't quite inflamed yet, but energetically, the machine is picking up, and your health is being affected by, this stress load. And if you don't do something, and this is what's key about it, right? If you don't do something about that stress, then you get inflamed. And if you don't do anything about that inflammation, then you get damaged. And that's how the colors go. So what you want, and this is what's ideal, is that you want to be in the green state. And the green state is the optimal energetic state of that particular meridian. Okay, and then again, in this case, they were specifically honing in on the pituitary gland and the and the adrenal glands. Okay, and they were looking at those specific hormone levels of that list of hormones that I mentioned. And so that's really what you're going to be looking at. And it's really kind of important that you understand that blue is normal. Blue is kind of like, we're all under stress. I mean, none of us can escape the stresses of our environment. We're living in electrosmog. We're constantly, being exposed to toxins and pollutants constantly. You drive down the road, you're breathing in carbon monoxide. You walk into any building and it's formaldehyde in the paint. And I mean, we are never not being subjected to some kind of toxic, chemical, and or viral pathogenic stressors. I mean, that's just the world we live in. And then, of course, unlike our ancestors, 100 years ago, we also live in this really thick electrosmog, EMF radiation environment, especially, after all the radiation tests and nuclear plant explosions that have happened in the last, 60 years. So, yeah, it's a way different environment than it was 100 years ago in terms of radiation and that sort of thing. So, really, most of us are living in the blue state. We're under stress. And so what Quantum Upgrade showed in this study, which was amazing, and it showed, now the other BESA studies where they did bioenergetic systems analysis on dogs, the first one they did was just that, which they just looked at stress, not specifically hormones, but just stress in general. All of the studies that were done on people that they've done this to, it's almost consistent 100% of the time that we're all walking around in a blue state, unless, of course, and what Quantum Upgrade and the physical products have shown in all of those other studies that are out there by BESA, was that this quantum energy that comes and envelops us brings our body up to a point where we're going from basically a degenerative state to an optimal state. It adds that layer of protection and builds up our own body's ability to handle all of the stuff that's around us, whether it's radiation or heavy metals or pathogens and so forth. So that's what's really amazing about this study, is that they really honed in on it and really showed it at a hormonal level. So once I just want to give you at the end of the day though, before I get into the detail, these are the results. So if you look at the actual, there's a document in here called the expert opinion. And so if you go to, let's say, right down here, you'll get the summary overview. There's the abstract of the project, the authorized summary, which is what I kind of walked through in the first part of the video. But then if you get into the expert opinion, that's kind of like the write-up of the whole study. And so if you get into the expert opinion and you take a look at like, hey, what's at the end of the day, give me a one paragraph that says what was the results of this piece of the project. Okay, this part of the study was where they looked at the bioenergetics on a hormonal level, and it just basically states, in the BESA after test, which is after you put they put the 30 dogs on Quantum Upgrade, Animals were each brought into contact with the test object, quantum upgrade, in contrast to the BESA before tests, in which the test object was not used. Okay, so this is before and after. So what happened was, once the dogs were on quantum upgrade, 30 of them, all of them, consistently, they showed consistently positive measurements. Results were recorded and indicating that neutralization or harmonization had taken place. The regulatory dynamics developed into an optimal effective range. And that's kind of the, this is in the actual report by the scientists themselves, which I stated as my opinion, which is this quantum upgrade and the Leela Quantum products are just an unbelievable, verified by, third-party, independent, gold research, gold standard research that shows that this has incredible benefits to your health, and specifically for this study, for the dog's health. So let me jump into the actual details now. Again, there's 5 separate studies of 6 different dogs. So this is how they were numbered, which is the study was P75 4.1.1. And you'll get into there's 4.1.2, 4.3, so forth. And so I'm going to just walk you through number 1, which is the same. I want to be consistent with part 1 of the video on the same 6 dogs. So let me kind of just walk you through that so you kind of get an idea of what this study looks like. Now it's quite long. It's 77 pages. So when I said the first batch of documents I was looking at, totaled about 219 pages. This more than doubled that in terms of the number of pages of data that came from this study. So it's quite remarkable, in terms of just any study at all. So here's your 5 groups of 6 dogs. Here's your, location number 2, which was they were evaluated by Dr. Barbara. Okay, I'm going to try this. Okay, so Hollogschwandtner. Okay, I give up. Okay, so anyway, so we get into this, and so now this is the legend of the different colors, which I went over with you. They kind of just discussed the measurements of those different colors, which the colors represent the actual readings on the device. They go into the creation of the project, and they talk about all the different aspects of it, how the project was designed. Now, I explained all that to you just now. They talk about the test subjects, and talk about the stress axis, which I'd covered with you. And let's see, they get into the description, the before and after. And let's get into this study here. I'm trying to get to the meat of it. This is right here on, what is this, page 13. If you want to get more into the actual definition of each one of these hormones that they looked at, here's the legend that's got a very detailed explanation of every one of these hormones and why they were looking at it, or what its importance was. And so you kind of get into, here we go. This is the meat of the report here. And this is report number 1 on the bioenergetic analysis done on the quantum upgrade for dog study. And so now here's the first thing. So when they look at it now, they basically looked at it, and there's a graphical representation, but when they measured this dog, the very first dog was a mixed breed dog, 18 kilograms, born in 2010. 15-year-old dog. Its health condition was, it was diagnosed by the veterinarian with gastritis, and then of course it has itching and fear of strangers. The conclusion now was that at the end of the day, is basically they measured the dog, and they found it that in a 90% degenerative state, and only 10% of it was, in an optimal state. So here's the graphical, and it's a lot easier just to look at the graphs. And so you can kind of see the blue and green here, where the dog was kind of like, hey, under a lot of stress. And all sorts of different types of stress, but it was definitely stress, and the stress was affecting all of the various areas that they looked at, looking at lung and skin, so they do a standard bioenergetic analysis. So you get this standard report on all the different areas of the body, bladders, nerves, stomach, spleen, organs, and so forth. This is your standard meridian stress assessment that you'll get. This is how BESA does it. And the only one here that was actually kind of a little bit green was the heart was strong. Otherwise, in the endocrine system was strong, a little bit of green there, but mostly was all blue in all the different areas. And all this data is available for you to review. But this is what's key about the study, is that it also got into the hormone scheme, okay? And so when you look at the hormone scheme, they measured all these different hormones through the analysis, and they found quite a few that were basically what they call deficiency and surplus and harmony. And that's kind of how this is a little bit different color graph, but they're looking at all of these different hormones, right, that affect your health, that create stress. and then you get the little pluses. So you can kind of see where the pluses are. And so there's really not, like there's only like one hormone on this dog that was in harmony. There was basically, most of them were in the area of surplus or hyperfunction. And then of course there was a deficiency of these hormones, these four in this particular dog. The deficiency is in cortisol, progesterone, testosterone, and testosterone and DHE. Got to slow down. Okay, and this is the graphical representation of that data. And they looked at the morning, noon, and night. And then this is what happens. Okay, and then the last piece here is the electromagnetic interference fields before. So they did take a look at that, in terms of like, I guess I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so that would be, they were testing, yeah, it looks like they were testing the EMF in the area that dog was exposed to. So now here's the after, and I think this is what's important. You look at the dog, 90% of its measurements were in a degenerative state, under a lot of stress. Put it on quantum upgrade, approximately 4 weeks after, okay? And they take a look at the dog 4 weeks after quantum upgrade, they're 100% in the green zone. And so what they want, I just want to point out the detail on this, and I'm not going to do all 6 of them, but just to give you an idea, what's in the study is a lot of data and a lot of detail. And so now as the graph shows, the measurement points are in the green. After 4 weeks, the BESA test shows significant improvement in the energy situation in the subject's meridian system compared to the BESA 1 before tests. Okay? And the state of the health after this particular dog, no gastritis, no itching, enjoys eating again, better digestion, enjoys going for walks again, anxiety towards strangers seems to have disappeared, he is friendly and more cognitive. There is also no more trace that the depressive tiredness, of depressive tiredness, and also, see also improved values from the test on, further else in feedback from the owners. So this was from the veterinarian working with the scientists that were measuring it. And so, it's amazing. I mean, this dog's itching disappeared, its gastritis disappeared, it started being more active and lively and friendly, and it's just amazing. And it's just amazing. And that's 4 weeks on quantum upgrade. Now this is the after picture of that same dog. You can see all the blue turned into green. Green is good. And so you can just see all the different areas of the standard assessment of all the different areas of the body that were measured, and how well everything went from blue to green. Again, here on the hormones, everything went into harmony with a few other things that were just in surplus. So you really kind of, deficiency is what you're worried about with this specific analysis. Where you're deficient in a particular hormone, it will affect your health. And so now you can see this, everything moved to the right, which is great. And the dog obviously got a lot healthier. Now, from the feedback experience, they basically categorized the feedback in terms of just overall improvement in the dog. This dog was in a category 3, moderate improvements, longer phases of freedom from symptoms. So, and that's just kind of, that's dog number 1. Dog number 2, here, this is your before picture of this mixed breed dog born in 2011. This dog's 14 years old, weighed 25.7 kilograms. The state of the health for dog number 2 this was that dog that was having epileptic seizures, lack of energy, and tired. It had digestive problems from the spleen and pancreas, and seems to have a lack of love and joy for life. Again, this is the veterinarian now doing the assessment. Now, unfortunately, the dog was 100% in the degenerative, stage in terms of having serious stressors on all of the various aspects of their body. The graphical representation here, you can see just the level of stress on the body was far greater than dog number 1. That's what these bar charts show. And that was on every aspect of the dog, everything from their stomach, their nerves, their organs, their pancreas, their bladder, allergies, they measure for allergies, liver, you name it. It's all in this report. And this dog was very, very sick. And so when they look at the deficiencies of hormones, almost all of the hormones for this poor little guy was deficient, meaning they weren't producing enough, in their own body, because the hormones come from our own bodies, right? That's what the HPA axis does. And so, and they basically were very, very ill. And so they kind of go through, they provide all the data and their detail. And then the beautiful part about this is after 4 weeks after quantum upgrade, dog number 2 was 100% in optimal green state. Okay, and so the state of the health was that they were currently, this is 4 weeks later, currently no more epileptic seizures, much more energetic, attentive, digestive problems are getting better, and seem sweet, more joyful towards life. Okay, and that is just a remarkable aspect of it, because you got to remember, these results are incredibly positive, and the before picture is they took a before picture of their blood, right? And that was part one of the video. And they also took a before picture of their energetics on their HPA axis and looked at their hormones. They were looking at two different things to validate, like what was Quantum Upgrade doing? And you got to remember, this is a dog. This is a mammal. You are a mammal. Think about what it's doing for you. And it's just amazing. It really is amazing to me when you actually see the science come into play. And so here you go. This is the after picture, 100% green. You can see everything just reversed out, and it just all went to positive in terms of optimal energetic state. Now, they did still have some hormonal deficiencies, but the majority went into harmony as they were able to measure them. And of course, they measured this, they rated this dog as a category 4 in terms of improvements according to the feedback sheet. And so they showed strong improvements, lasting freedom from symptoms. So it's just amazing. Dog number 3 is the mixed breed dog. It's again, it's 5 years old, 23 kilograms. The health condition of dog number 3 was withdrawn and shy, problems with digestion and pancreas, withdrawn from other dogs, seems listless. Again, this poor little guy was 100% in the blue. I'll just jump into here's all the different problems that this dog had, and where it was, where the the device was picking up stress factors on all the various organs and all that stuff that it measures. And then it gets into the hormone. You can see again, this poor little guy, deficient in almost every hormone on its HPA axis. And so then they get into the after. This is 4 weeks later. 4 weeks later, 100% in the green. It just flipped the dog energetically. And also, if you recall from the blood test, it did the same with the blood. So it improved the blood and improved the overall energetics of the dog. The state of health after 4 weeks on dog number 3 was still withdrawn, yes. Shy, rather, no. Digestion and pancreas are much better. Skin much better. Skin completely clean, withdrawn from other dogs, otherwise appears more lustful. This is your little lustful guy. Okay, and this is, the veterinarian assessment as well as the assessment, and this is the green graph, here on the after test, and then we jump right into the hormones. Literally all of them went into a harmony status in terms of its hormone regulation was now balanced. And this dog, this is what I was looking for, was the feedback sheet, which was the owners. Their feedback about the dog's health and the behavior was a category 5, which was complete regulation or elimination of problems, symptoms, and pathogens. So this dog, this Quantum Upgrade did amazing for this one particular dog. Now here's your dog number 4, the little Pekingese, which was the only picture in the study. 15 years old, little 7 kilogram Pekingese. The state of health in the before they were measured were severe signs of paralysis. Remember, this guy couldn't walk. They were trembling from pain all over her body and difficult to take the blood samples and shy. And that was the evaluation from the veterinarian. And of course, you would expect it to be 100% in blue, which I'm a little surprised that it didn't have more yellow and red. But strangely enough, it wasn't. It's amazing that there was no damage. It was just under a tremendous amount of environmental stress. And pathogenic stress, and you name it. Okay, you can see the length of the blue bars was significant stress factors affecting this little guy. And so now she went from her measurements before was had a surplus, so she wasn't. What's interesting was that there's not a lot of hormonal problems with the dog. They have a few, but it was pretty much like neutral. But nothing was in a harmonious state in terms of the dog's hormonal balance on the HPA index or axis. But then here's your after picture. So the after picture, boom, the dog again went into 100% in the green, went from basically a degenerative state to an optimal state energetically. And then the state of health when evaluated by the veterinarian was that the severe symptoms of paralysis seem to have been resolved. She's walking again after 2 days on Quantum Upgrade, trembling all over her body from pain, only in phases, and seems grateful. And so that's just amazing. And so we just jump past the after study, after report on the dog. Again, there's all this data, and you can see hormones jump into harmony. So it definitely went from surplus to harmony, went from neutral to positive hormonally. And then this dog was rated a category 3, moderate improvements, longer phases without symptoms. So one of the things I kind of want to point out, which wasn't in the other report, was that they did a little bit more detail about the feedback from the owners. And I think that it's really important to point out that there's different, the reason they categorize the feedback from the owners is to kind of just put, it's their scientific way of saying, okay, this is, anecdotal observation by human beings looking at, living with their dogs. And of course, you know more about your dog than anyone else in the world, right? You live with them, sleep with them, you watch them eat, you watch them poop. I mean, and so, but they do have to, as scientists, they have to categorize it. And so what you're seeing here is that some dogs will show moderate improvement. Some dogs will show strong. That one dog showed complete improvement, which is amazing. So this little guy, I can only imagine that because it was literally paralyzed. It wasn't walking, but it went from being paralyzed to walking in 2 days. Amazing on Quantum Upgrade. Okay. So, yeah, it was so bad off, but that they did categorize the feedback as a category 3, where the dog was showing moderate improvements, but longer phases without symptoms. So, it was definitely an improvement, obviously, definitely an improvement. But because of where the starting point was, it wasn't rated any higher in terms of the feedback from the owners. Okay. Now, dog number 4 is a golden doodle. I think they meant doodle. As born in 21, so it's a 4 years old, 25.5 kilograms. The health condition of the dog was partly severe allergies, intestinal diverticula, skin problems, food intolerances, but very lively. Okay. Now this dog here was interesting, where it had basically it at 97% in the blue, but it did have a little bit of 1% yellow. Let's go take a look at where that 1% is. So if you want to, here's the pie chart here, and then so you kind of look at all the different areas that they measured, and somewhere in here we're going to see yellow. Just out of curiosity, like, where is that yellow? Okay, I don't see it. I guess it's so like 1%. It's just not showing up. Yeah, I'm having a hard time reading these little colors. It's so small. But somewhere in here, one of their areas had some inflammation. The rest of it's just in a degenerative state. That's what blue means. And so, we're looking for green. Here we go. This little guy, hormone problem, major problem on its HPA axis. All of their hormones except for 2 were in a deficiency, and they measured that. And of course, here you go. 4 weeks after Quantum Upgrade, dog number 4, 100% in the green. The state of the health after 4 weeks on Quantum Upgrade was the allergies were attenuated, intestinal diverticula. Apparently it's still there because it didn't say it went away, but the skin problems are much better. Food intolerances, you get the impression that something is happening to him. Very quiet and withdrawn, difficult environment on the part of the pet owners. Oh, there's that one. And so the health got better. Let's take a look at, okay, now everything went to green, which is awesome, but not really strong green. So there's still quite a bit of stress, but at least it's optimal at this stage. Oops, my computer just froze up a little bit. Here we go. Oh yeah, there's a skip in the page there. And then of course you've got all the hormones now after 4 weeks. Dog number 4, their hormones are in harmony, and then a couple are in neutral. So it went from, deficiency to harmony. And that's what's amazing about Quantum Upgrade. It was affecting their hormone production through their pituitary and adrenal glands. And that's pretty amazing that quantum energy has that effect. Guess what? We just learned something new. Now, unfortunately, this was a category 1 in terms of the feedback from the owners. No change, slight temporary effects. So, again, it's, this is not a silver bullet, but you can see right here from the data that the hormones got better, that their energetic system got better, their blood got better, from part 1. So, but, apparently, just the feedback was just a category 1. The owners didn't see a lot of change, although there was change measured in the actual data that had come from the evaluation by both the veterinarian and the clinicians running the study. Now, the last dog, number 5, this is dog number 6, I believe, is this? I'm either 5 or 6. I'm sorry, I lost track. This dog is Labrador, born in 2013, 25 kilograms. Health condition, no abnormalities. Oh, this was the healthy dog, number 6. And growth on the right side of the neck. Okay, very lively, very friendly, typical Labrador. Now, unfortunately, it was 100% in the blue range. Okay, so again, typical we all fairly kind of, operate on a healthy level, or we wouldn't be walking around and we wouldn't be watching YouTube videos. And so, but this is normal. This is what we all are normal, which is we're all in a degenerative state. We're under a lot of stress, as I mentioned before. So even though this dog was, this Labrador is all healthy and happy, mostly, but energetically degenerative state. And if you take a look at the first video, you look at this dog's blood, and it did look clumped up. So, and that's our typical state. So your typical healthy person's got clumped up blood, and you're in a degenerative energetic state. And look what Quantum Upgrade can do for you. And also, too, if you had a block or capsule, you're wearing carrying around a card, all that stuff on the physical side is the same thing as Quantum Upgrade. It's quantum energy. It's just this wonderful stuff. Look what it can do. Scientifically measured improvements and all this stuff. So here we go. It's got some deficiencies, mostly neutral on the hormone measurements. And then here we go. After 4 weeks, it went from blue, right? It was like, what was that blue? I mean, just forgot to take a look at the percentage. Oh, 100% blue. So 100% blue to 100% green. And so, yeah, it flipped it around energetically. Okay, so the state of health after was, hey, no abnormalities, still possibly a little bit more alert, growth on the neck still was there, otherwise unchanged. And so you can imagine, here's your after picture of all of the different things that were measured by the bioenergetic systems analysis. All of the hormones now are registering in harmony or neutral, but mostly all harmony. And then you get into the category of the user's feedback, the owner's feedback. And as they measured it they rated it as a category 4, where the dog did show strong improvements, lasting freedom from symptoms. And that's it. So then at the very last end of the report, they basically give you a snapshot of the pie charts. And that's how these reports go. Okay, so that's it. I mean, I just want to repeat one more time that they repeated the study 5 different times. So, and it was all completely randomized, double blind, right? Placebo controlled, done by clinicians, a veterinarian, and owner's feedback. And they took a look at all of these dogs. They looked at their blood. They looked at their energetic signature. They looked at this hormone production of their HPA axis, pituitary gland and adrenals. And they looked at all of these different things. And this is what the other half of the study is now available. And it consistently positive measurements results were recorded, indicating that the neutralization or harmonization had taken place. And that's why you'll hear the word harm, when quantum energy is discussed, you'll hear how that's what it does. This is life force energy, positive chi, positive ether, akasha, prana. It is this amazing aspect of our existence that when you increase that level in your body or your world, then incredible things happen. And this is what this study proves, is that there are biological responses to what happens when you increase your life force energy. It's just amazing. And this is scientific proof now. There's no debate. This is it. These are the measurements, and here's all the data. There's no editorializing other than myself on this video. And so, yeah, so there you go. So here is the data. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative. Now, if you like this kind of material, I run different series of videos. This is called The Benefits of Quantum Healing, again, where I recap the science studies. I also do some recaps on testimonials, mostly science studies. There's another video series called Welcome to Leela Q, which is all the FAQs, where I go and explain how to, how all that stuff works, and how to, and then there's the tutorials where I explain how, there's a whole video series of tutorials where I explain how do you use the products and how do you, get the most out of your investment. So if you're interested in learning about the studies, this is this series called Benefits of Quantum Healing. If you just have, questions about quantum energy, you have questions about all of this kind of stuff and how it works, then that's going to be your Welcome to Leela Q video series. And of course, the tutorials are one by one, depending on what you want to learn. So there you go. Now, if you want to learn more about the quantum upgrade, you can go to quantumupgrade.io. There's links in the video description below for everything I'm talking about today. And so, yeah, they're doing, their free trial. And if you haven't tried this and you want to try it for your dog, sign your dog up for a free trial, so go for it. And then, of course, if you want to learn more about me and you want to see the playlist for the various videos about quantum energy and about Leela Quantum Tech and Quantum Upgrade, you can find me at the tinkers.academy. Just type that into your URL window and it goes to the blog. Again, if you want to keep on top of Leela Quantum Tech and Quantum Upgrade, studies and just learning more about quantum energy, as well as community news, as well as product announcements and things like that. Go ahead and just subscribe. I cover all of that material here on my channel. So again, I want to say thank you for your time. Hope you found this interesting. And again, quantum upgrade and quantum technology is just unbelievably amazing for our bodies. And I hope that you're enjoying, your toe in the pool of life force energy, and it's benefiting you as well. So again, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Aloha.